Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 4 of my Visual Basic tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, I'll cover constants, enumerations, structures, classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, overriding methods, array lists, and a whole bunch more. Of course, all the code's available in the description along with a transcript of this video, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so here we are over in Visual Studio, and I have everything set up just like I have in the previous parts of the tutorial, so I didn't want to waste your time going over creating these things again. Just refer to what we previously have done. And we're going to be working with 4 files. We have our basic form designer here. We have form 1, which is going to be the code that's going to be attached to the update button. We're going to also have 2 other files called animal and cat. And I'll show you how to create those in a second. And now I'm going to jump over and start writing some code. So I am in the code window right now. And one thing that I forgot to cover are constants. Now, a constant is just going to be a variable that is going to be assigned a value, and that value cannot change after it has been assigned. And how we create constants is exactly like this. And normally constants are in all uppercase letters. So let's say that I wanted to create pi inside of here. I could do it just like that. All right, so there you are. That's how you create constants. Not much more to talk about in regards to constants. And now I'm going to jump over and talk about array lists. So let's come down inside of this function that is going, or this subroutine that's going to be executed every time you click on the update button. And basically an array list is going to make it easy for you to create resizable arrays, so you don't have to worry about that. So let's just come in here and let's create one. And I'm going to call this customers as new array list. Just like that. There you go, you created an array list. Now you're going to be able to add items, so you can just say customers and then add, and you could throw anything inside of this array list, but I'm just going to throw in some customer names, generic names, and let's throw in another one. Let's throw in Sally Roberts. So there we go. So we just added those in there. We didn't have to resize the array list or anything. Everything's just going to work. Now what you're going to be able to do is, let's say you want to get the number of items you have inside of your list or your array list. And let's just call this count. And of course, these videos are made for pausing. So if at any time I'm going a little bit too fast, just click on that pause button and you can do whatever you'd like there. And to get that value, you just go count. And then I am going to throw in a new line. And let's go and do a couple more things here. This is going to be a resizable array list, but sometimes it's useful to be able to go and find out what the maximum allocated size is for your array list at any moment. And we get that with capacity, so we'll just change count into capacity like that. Now let's go and do a couple more things with array lists here just so we can see some interesting output. You're also going to be able to insert an element into a defined index, and it's just going to move all of the other elements in the array list further down inside of the array list to make room. And to do that, we'll use insert. And here I'm going to say that I want it to go in the 0 mark, so it's going to move everything to the right. And I'll just put Paul Marks inside of there. You're also going to be able to remove any matching objects inside of here. So we'll go customers and remove, and let's say that Sally Roberts is not welcome in our store anymore. There you go. Now she's out of our array list. We're also going to be able to come in here and sort items quite easily. So this is going to sort them alphabetically. And we could also then call for the information to be reversed. So there we are, that's reversed. And we're also going to be able to find out if an array list contains a value. Here we'll just put contains inside of there. And let's look and see if it contains Bob Smith inside of there. And this is just going to return a value of true or false if it's in there or not. And how we find that is just go customers, contains, and then exactly what we're looking for. So we'll say Bob Smith. If we find out that Bob Smith is indeed contained inside of there, we could get the index for Bob Smith. So let's change this to index of Bob Smith, and then let's change contains downside here into index of Bob Smith, and of course that's going to return that information. We're also going to be able to copy an array list into an array, so let's call this array customers, and let's define the size of that, and we'll say as string. It's probably better to make it a little bit bigger, but whatever, I'm just going to keep it that way. And then you'd be able to come in here and say customers and copy to, and then the array you want to copy that information into. And let's go and output that information just so that you can see it on the screen. And we'll use for each here. So we'll say for each customer as string in array customers, and then we'll throw in some text output here. This is just going to be customer, so let's just get rid of that altogether, and then get rid of this second line right here, and that will just output the customers on the screen. And then finally, if you want to clear all of the information that is in the array list, you can just go clear. Okay, let's run that and see what that looks like. And I'm going to click on start up here, and there it is right there. And we click on update, and you're going to see right here, count gave us the total number of values. Capacity is the size that was set aside for the array list. Like I said before, that's going to constantly change. Does the array list contain the word Bob Smith or the name Bob Smith? Yes. What is the index for that? And you can see here the list of items inside of our array list. So that's pretty much all you're going to be doing with array lists. And now I want to talk about enumerations. Now, with enumerations, you're going to be able to create custom types, like, for example, how Booleans can only accept values like true or false. You're going to be able to create enumerations that are, or custom data types that are going to have a limited number of values. So let's say, and I'm outside of our subroutine right here, and that's very important. So let's say that I would like to create an enumeration that is going to represent seasons. So I'm going to call this season as integer. And then inside of it, I'll just define our seasons. So I'm going to say spring is going to be 0, and summer is going to be 1, and fall, of course, is going to be equal to 2, and then winter is going to be equal to 3. All right, so that is how easy it is to define an enumeration. And now let's jump down inside of the actual function, and you can see I have the text box right here. That's how I'm putting the text into that text box. And let's go and use an enumeration. So basically I want to define a variable as our brand new season type, and I'm going to do it just like I do with anything else. So let's say I want to do current season as season, and let's spell season right. So everything's going to work just as you've seen in the other parts. And let's go and define that we want this to be season spring. And then we can come in here and output some information. So we'll say something like it is with space. And then if you want to actually get the current season from this guy, we can just come in and say current season and then to string, exactly like that, and run it and update, and you can see that it is spring shows up inside of there. So that's a real basic overview of enumerations. You can do a couple other things with them, but just wanted to cover the basics. And now I want to talk about structures. Now, a structure is going to be used to store multiple pieces of data with different data types. So we're going to come in, we're going to call this public. And here public means that you can refer to these variables outside of the structure. So I'm going to make the structure public, and I'm going to define employee inside of there. And then I'm going to put some information. So I'm going to say public name as string and public position as string. And of course we can put all kinds of different data types inside of here. So let's go and throw one inside of here. Public salary as decimal. Okay, so there you go. You just created a structure. And just to add something else inside of here, you're also going to be able to add a property with all the information inside of here. So we'll say, we'll go public, and we're going to make this read only. And if you mark this as read only, this won't allow the property to be changed. So we're going to go property, and let's say we want to get the full information on any of these structure types. And we're going to return a string in this situation. And you're going to have to put end property inside of there, and then put get, and then whatever you want to return. So we'll say return name and we'll put is a, and it will throw in the position for this said employee, and we'll say how much money they make. So we'll say makes, we'll say and makes, and a $, and then throw in the salary after that, and a new line. So now let's go down inside of our subroutine and actually make this work. So we're going to create an employee here, and I'm going to call it Bob Smith as employee. Just reference that structure. We can then come in and add in specific information about Bob Smith. So we'll go name is equal to, and of course it's going to be Bob Smith. We then have to put in Bob Smith's position inside of there, and we'll say that Bob Smith is a manager. And then let's throw in Bob Smith's salary, and we'll say that Bob Smith makes $50,000. All right, so pretty good money there, Bob. All right, and then we're going to throw in some information here. First, I'm going to show you how to output the information by pulling it from what's stored inside of the structure, and then I'll show you the property for the full information. It does exactly the same thing, but just want to do something here a little bit different. So we're going to go Bob Smith, and we're going to get Bob's name out of there, and let's go and get some more stuff. And inside of here, we'll say is a, exactly like we previously had done. We'll go and we'll get Bob Smith's position, and then we'll say and makes and a $sign, just like we did previously. And then we'll go throw another and inside of there, and Bob Smith again, and salary. Okay, so there's all of that information that we want to print out. But of course, we had the full info property that we created, so let's go and use that as well. So we'll go text output and equal to, and here we can just go Bob Smith and full info, and of course you could have any number of different functions inside of here, and environment and our new line. Okay, so there's two different ways to print out exactly the same thing, and we'll run it. As long as I did everything right, you can see that everything is exactly the same. All right, so there's a rundown of structures, and now I'd like to talk about object-oriented programming. Now, with object-oriented programming, what we're going to do is we are going to model real-world objects by defining their properties or their attributes, things like height and weight and favorite food and color of eyes and things like that. All right, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about properties. We're also going to talk about the methods or capabilities of said object. The ability to run, to eat, to fly, to do whatever. And we define the properties and methods in a class, which is a blueprint for creating things called objects. Pretty simple. I mean, that's it. Everything on Earth has attributes and capabilities, and we model those using properties and methods inside of classes. So let's go and create a new object. I actually created two of them here for us. We have animal and cat. How you do that, though, is you come over here and you right-click there, and you come down to Add, and then you come down to Class, and you click on that. Make sure you have Class selected here, and then you come down and type something in like animal.vb. All right, so I already did that, so I don't need to do it. So I'm going to open up animal.vb, and then inside of here, I'm going to define all of the properties and methods for this animal. So we're going to say height is going to be something that our animal is going to have, and we're just going to do this exactly like always. And here I'm going to throw in default values. We're also going to come in and we are going to define weight, and again this is going to be a decimal, and I'm going to throw in a default value. Also, let's say that we would like to track speed for our animal. We will be able to do so, and we'll throw a default value. All right, so there you go. There's some attributes or properties for our animal objects that we plan on creating. Now, you can also add a private property to protect your data. So let's say that I want to protect the name for my animal, and let's say that I do not want users to be able to enter a number, because that's just bad. All right, so we're going to say we want a proper name for all of our animals. So I need to mark this as read only, and property, and get name is going to allow them to get access to the value stored inside of my name that I have right here. All right, so why that's a good thing to do, make sure you close this off. We're going to say end property. There that is. And then we will go get, and inside of this, we will return the name. Now, the reason why you would have this as read-only is, let's say you don't want to just provide the name, but you want to provide the name plus specific output every time somebody calls for that. That is the reason why we would use this. Now, we're also going to protect our data inside of here. So we're going to create another subroutine, and it's going to be called setName, and this is going to be called every single time the user decides they want to try to change the name for our animal objects. And here we're going to check that the name that was passed over isn't a number, because we have defined or decided that we do not want a number to be a valid name. So that's what we're doing. We're protecting our data, and that's the reason why we set it up this way. So if they come in and they is numeric, if you pass a string value inside of there and it comes back that it can be translated into a number, in that situation it's going to give us a true value, and I'm going to say I don't want that. So if they do come in here and they send us a number for the name, I am going to not allow them to assign it to the animal, and I'm going to put an error message out here. So I'm going to say name can't contain numbers. Just really simple. Now I could make this a little bit better, but I'm just going to leave it like that. And what we're going to do is else, if they do give us a valid name, which is just a regular old string, in that situation we're going to assign the value they passed to us to our name for our animal. And that's it. So there we are. We are able to protect our data, and that's the reason why we go and mark these properties as read-only and such. Now another thing you can have here is whenever you go and initialize or create a new object based off the template or the blueprint that the class is defining, we would call a function called a constructor. And the constructor is going to be called, like I said, anytime a user creates a new object. And how you define that guy is you define a subroutine with a new as the name. And let's say that we want to make it optional that they pass in a height value. That's how you do that. And we will say decimal is equal to, and here we will throw a default value inside of there. And then likewise, we're going to do this for all of the other additional pieces of information that could be passed inside of here. So optional just means we might not get it. So we'll go wait, and we'll leave 0 as a default value there. We could also come in and have speed be inside of here. Again, we're going to have that be default. And then we will also define the name. I'm going to just make this NAM as string, and we will define the default name for all of our animal objects as unknown because we don't know it. So that makes sense. Now this is giving me all these red lines because I haven't closed off this subroutine. So I'll go end sub, exactly like that. And now I'm going to define the height based off the value that was passed inside of here. Again, I'm going to define the weight based off of the same thing, and the speed based off of that. And then finally the name for that guy and the name passed inside of there. And let's create one more thing here. I'm going to create a function inside of here that is going to simulate running. So I'm going to go public, and I'm going to say that it is going to be overridable by subclasses. And we'll get more into what that means. But for now, just know that this function, by putting overridable inside of there, means that it is going to be able to be overridden. It's going to be able to be changed later on. And I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by overriding methods or functions or whatever. So we'll say string, like that. It's going to return a string. And here we will say return name and runs. And then we'll come down and say speed and miles per hour. Okay, so that's what all of that does. All right, and that's all we're going to do with our animal class at this time. And now we'll jump over into the form and create some objects. All right, so we're going to create an animal object and then assign property values to it. So we'll just go dim and dog as new animal with, and throw that inside of here. And then inside of here, we'll define the weight for our animal, and we'll say 77.5, and we will define our height, and let's make that 25.5, and we will define our speed, and that's going to be equal to 30, and there that is. Okay, so let's come down here, and let's set the name for our dog. And remember, we're going to call set name because that's going to protect us from entering a number. And then we're going to enter a number just to cause an error to see exactly what that does. And then we will output some information on our screen. So text output again and equal to. And here we'll say something like the dog is named. And then if we want to get that property, that name property out of there, we just go dog and call get name, which is the name we created for that guy. And you don't have to put this inside of there. Actually, it'll give you an error if you do. So just leave that off of there. And environment and new line. And likewise, let's come in here and call the run function to see what that does. And we'll keep this very simple. We will just go dog and run. And that's going to pass that information. Here you do have to put the parentheses in though. And let's go and use the constructor as well. So let's go and create a cat inside of here as new animal. And we'll pass in some information about our cat. And we can go 30. And you're also going to be able to pass the name inside of there without any issues. And here we're just going to have our cat run. So throw that there. And here we'll change this to cat and run and the new line. And we'll save it and execute. And if we call update, you're going to see it gives me an error message. Name can't contain numbers. So that's not going to allow it to change the dog's name to 10. We'll click on OK. And you're going to see that the dog still remains named as unknown. However, and you can see there it's printing out unknown runs 30 miles per hour. But here we passed in a valid name of Fluffy, and you can see that the output likewise is valid. Okay, so there's an overview of classes. And now I'd like to talk about inheritance. Now basically with inheritance, subclasses are going to be able to inherit all of the properties and methods of the superclass. So a subclass is going to be called cat, and the superclass that we are inheriting from is called the superclass. All right, and let's go to actually inherit. Remember, you have to come over here, right click, come down here, add, and class, and then put a class name inside of there. Name yours cat.vb. I'm going to open up cat.vb and go and inherit away. All right, so we are inside of our cat class, and to inherit everything that is in the animal class, all you have to do is go inherits animal, and that's it. Now you have every single property and every single method that was defined in the animal class. Now we can create a function, for example, to extend this. So let's say that not every animal cleans itself, but a cat does. So we could say something like clean, and this is going to return a string. And we can just say return and call for get name to get the name of our cat. And even though it's not going to be defined inside of this class, it's already there because it inherited it from animal. So it cleans itself. All right. So there's something we can extend our inherited brand new cat class. And that's what's useful about inheritance. You're also going to be able to override a function just by putting in overrides inside of here and using the same name. So we're going to go public overrides function run. And, whoops, get rid of that. And if you don't remember, in the animal class, the reason why we were able to override this is because we put overridable right there. All right, and that's what that means. So we're going to say public overrides function run as string. And here, let's say that we're dealing with a difficult cat that may not want to run just because you tell it to. So what we're going to do is generate a random value. So do this like that, and then we'll go math floor, and we want two values out of this. Either it's going to be 1 or a 2, so we'll throw that inside of there, and then we will multiply that times the random number generator that we have right here and add 1 to it. In the last part of the tutorial, I explained exactly how this guy works. I'm just going to keep this simple though. And then based off of whether I get a 1 or a 2 from this, I am going to perform different actions. So I'm going to say here, random value, if random value is equal to 1, well then I want to return a string, and it's going to be get name. I want to get the name out of this class. And I'll say that the cat decided not to be difficult and to run like it was asked to do. So we'll say speed, and then we'll put miles per hour. Otherwise, if it comes back with a value of 2, we are going to return a different response. Here we'll say get name, and we'll just say prefers to sleep. All right, so we're dealing with a difficult cat instead of a generic old animal, and it does unique things, which is great. And that's all we're going to do with that cat class. Now let's jump over into Form 1 and have it do some stuff. All right, so we'll just come down here, and we will create a new cat object, and let's call it kitty as new cat with, and we will define some different things that this cat's going to have inside of it. So we will say the weight of our cat is going to be 9.5, and the height of the cat is also going to be 9.5, and we will define the speed equal to 30 miles per hour. Outside of this, we will then go and set our kitty's name, set name, and we will pass kitty inside of there, which is going to be a valid name. Let's go up here to our dog, by the way, and give it a normal name. Let's call it Spot. Never met a dog named Spot, but that looks good. And we'll throw that inside of there. And now we can go and check out how this is going to work for us. So we'll go equal to, and we'll call the kitty run function, just like we did with the dog. And then we will throw in the new line and see how that works for us. We'll run it and update, and you can see here kitty prefers to sleep comes back as a response. We click on update again, and we click on update again, and here you can see kitty runs 30 miles per hour. So it's just going to go and give us random values based off of the fact that our kitty is, or our cat is, being difficult. All right. Now, another thing that comes up all the time that confuses people is the term polymorphism. Now, polymorphism can be used in numerous different ways, but a great way to basically understand it is that polymorphism is when you can refer to a subclass as if it was of the superclass type and still execute all of the overridden methods. So, for example, we can say that kitty is an animal because it is. However, whenever we use it, we want to use the kitty's version of run, not animal. All right, so it's very, very useful in practice that polymorphism works. So let me give you an example of polymorphism here. And let's come down here and let's create a function first outside of our subroutine we have here. So we'll come down here and say function show info, and we'll say the animal as animal. Now this function is going to be able to receive any animal objects as well as any subclasses of animal. So it can receive animal objects or cat objects. And what it's going to do is it's going to return all of the information about said animal. So we will go and get the animal's name, and we'll say weighs, and then we will go the animal once again and get its weight, and we'll define that this is pounds that we're dealing with here, and then we'll say and is, bounce down here, the animal height, and we'll say inches tall, and then we'll call for the run to occur. So once again, the animal, and call run on this guy, and that's it. All right, so that's what it's going to do. It's going to receive either an animal or a cat object, and it's going to output all that information about said animal or cat object on the screen. So we'll come down here and we'll see it work. Let's just grab this guy right here, and let's operate on an animal as well as a cat object. So here we'll say show info, and we will pass a cat, which is actually an animal object, inside of there and have that guy do its thing. And then after that, we will come in here and call show info once again, except in this information, or in this situation, we are going to pass kitty in here, which is actually a cat object. And if we run that, you're going to see, if we click on update, that Fluffy weighs 9 pounds, 9 inches, Fluffy runs. And you can see in this situation that the kitty or cat object is going to be able to automatically call for the different version of run, and in this situation show that kitty prefers to sleep. And if we click on update, you're going to see you get a random value once again. All right, so there you go, guys. That is a ton of information about Visual Basic. Hope you found that useful, and like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.